In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at cross-border shopping and how you convert from one currency to another. So it says at the top here, when consumers wish to purchase items from another country, they often need to convert the purchasing currency into their own country's currency. Unless, if you were living in Canada and you were purchasing something from the United States and you actually had an American bank account, then you wouldn't have to worry about that. Okay? But if you're purchasing it in and converting it into your own currency, then you're going to have to do some kind of a conversion. So this table here on the right listed the currencies, the currency rates, exchange rates when I started to make up this presentation a couple of days ago. So on April 24th, 2017, 9:10 a.m. Eastern, these were the exchange rates. So this means that Canadian dollar was worth 0.7425 US dollars. Or it would take 0.7425 US dollars to make 1 Canadian dollar. A US dollar was 1.3467 Canadian dollars, etc. And it actually lists the euros, British pounds, and Japanese yens in terms of Canadian dollars as well. So this means that if you were to purchase 1 euro, it would, that's the for the European Union, their currency type, it would take $1.46 and a little bit more Canadian dollars. So, in this first example, Jenny's purchasing some clothes from an American online retailer located in Michigan. The total cost is $215.95 before tax, and sales tax in Michigan is 6%. So, we're asked how much will Jenny pay in Canadian dollars if she gets free shipping. So, I put the free shipping in there so that we don't have to worry about the shipping part at all. We just do the adding the tax and the exchange rate. That's all we're going to do. So, the cost in US dollars, we would is $215.95, and we're going to add 6% tax to it. So we're multiplying by 1.06. So we would take our calculator and go $215.95 times 1.06, and so that's we get 228.907. This is money, so we would round to 2 decimal places. That 0 would get rounded to a 1 because the 7 is 5 or bigger. So it's going to be 228.91. And so that's the cost in US dollars, including tax. Now the cost in Canadian dollars, we're going to take this and use the exchange rate. So we would take the American dollars, okay, so this is US dollars, we're going into Canadian dollars, and so we multiply by 1.3467 to change it into Canadian dollars. So that's why I'm multiplying by 1.3467. You can actually go both ways here, converting, and I'm going to talk about that more in the second example. So you can hold off for that one. So back to my calculator again, 228.91. times the 1.3467 gives me 308.273. Again, it's money, so we round to 27 cents. The 3 is smaller than a 5, so the 7 does not round up, so it stays 27 cents. So 308.27 is what Jenny's going to pay in Canadian dollars. $308.27. Example number 2. Evan lives in Canada but has a YouTube channel where he posts videos of his gaming exploits and he earns money. And his earnings are in US dollars. So this is one way people make money on YouTube. It all has to do with the advertising. If you're getting enough hits on your YouTube channel, they'll allow you to monetize your videos, and then you can start collecting revenue from them. He makes $1,153.82 US in a month. I didn't bother to put the D for the dollars because I have the dollar symbol here. So we're asked, how much will it be deposited into his Canadian bank account? So what we would do here, to get his earnings in Canadian dollars, we're going to take this $1,153.82, and this is really the same thing we did in the first example. That's in US dollars. We want to go into Canadian dollars. So we multiply it by 1.3467, and I'll bring the calculator back here again. 1153.82 times the 1.3467. So 1553.85. That's how much he's going to earn in Canadian dollars. So the 1153.82 is US dollars. This is what it's worth in Canadian dollars according to these exchange rates. So that's how much is going to go into his bank account in Canadian dollars. Now, I was talking in the previous page about knowing how to multiply or divide to convert currencies. And so if you ever forget, do I multiply by the 1.3467 or do I divide? Okay, so here's a way you can figure that out. So I'm still using these values from over here because the top two actually tell you the kind of the same thing. On Canadian dollars worth this, and actually, let me bring my calculator back before I get into the rest of this. See, if they say, I'm going to clear my screen here. If they say that a US dollar is worth 1.3467 Canadian dollars, if you take what's called the reciprocal of that, so 1 divided by 1.3467, I missed my 667. Oh, I got an extra 7 there now. Delete. Then that's where the 0.7425 comes from. Okay, so now it would actually round to 6, so it's just a bit of rounding. That's the reason the fourth decimal is off a little bit. But you see, these two numbers are said to be reciprocals of one another. If I multiply 0.7425 by 1.3467, I'm going to get 1, or actually extremely close to 1. Okay, so those are reciprocals of one another. They multiply to 1. And so that's how, if you know one, you can get the other one. So another way to find this 1553.85 is you could say, okay, this chart tells us that 1 US dollar is 1.3467 Canadian dollars. That's what this little ratio means here. So if we want to convert 1153.82 to US dollars into Canadian, so this, I'm just writing this because it's telling me the current currencies in US dollars. See, I have my US dollars both on top, so I have my Canadian dollars both on the bottom. So this is my unknown here, and the way we solve a proportion, this is a proportion because I know three things here. I know this is 1, this is 1.3467, that's 1153.82, is we do something called cross multiplying. So we multiply the two numbers on the diagonal that you know both. That's why I'm multiplying there. And you actually divide by the third number. Because of the fact this is a 1, I don't actually have to worry about going divided by 1, because it actually works out, dividing by 1 works out to the same thing. So that's why I don't bother put the 1 there, but you could. So this is actually exactly the same calculation you did here to get the 1553.85. So using that, that's another way to find that's a 1553.85. Another way to do it, using the top one, is this says a Canadian dollar is worth 0.7425 US dollars. So 1 Canadian dollar is 0.7425 US dollars. So in our proportion, see, I've got my Canadian dollars on top this time and US dollars on the bottom. So see, we were told it was 1153.82 US, so the 1153.82 US goes down here. And this is my unknown. I'm trying to figure out what the Canadian dollars are up here. And so in order to find that, we would go, again, we're cross-multiplying like we were over here. 1 times 1153.82, which is what I have on top here, divided by 0.7425. And I'll bring my calculator back one more time. I'll just clear this. So it's 1153.82. Now times 1. And then divide by 0.7425. Okay, so there's the same value. Now, it's off by a few cents. Remember, this was 85 cents, this is 97, and that's just because of rounding. Okay, so it's very slightly different. This actually should be a 6 here, like when I divided those. If we actually change that, I think it'll actually be more accurate. Change it to a 6. Okay, well, it's about the same under, I guess. 85 cents, so it's 9 cents under as opposed to being 12 cents over. So that's how you can use that if you forget which way to multiply or divide. So on to the last example. Now, in this last one page, when a Canadian citizen leaves Canada to shop in the U.S., they pay taxes and duty, and we're not going to worry about the duty, just the taxes here, on the following amounts depending on how long they're in the U.S. Now, this says as of 2003. I'm using the same values that were in the textbook they were using. If it's over 24 hours, you got to, the first $50 was duty and tax free. If it was, you were over in the other country in the US over 48 hours, there was $200 duty free, and whatever above that you pay tax on. And it was over 7 days, you was $750 duty and tax free. Now, these are actually changed. I think this one's 200 and these are both 800 now. Okay, this is 2017 I'm making this in. So example 3 says find the HST that each of the following people would pay. And the first one says Jeannie shops in the US and purchased $275 worth of goods. She was out of Canada for 50 hours. So 50 hours is a little over 48, so we're going to use this one here. Now, this says over 48 hours, there's 200 duty free. She bought 275, so the first 200 is tax free. She would only pay tax on the amount over $200, which would be the 75. Okay, so it's $75 because 275 is 75 bigger than 200. See, if I take my calculator, 275 minus the base amount of 200, so it's $75 that we're going to multiply by 0.13. So she's going to pay $9.75 in HST in tax. And that's a pretty small amount if you're crossing the border, and especially if there are a lot of people, like a long lineup. The customs agent might, for the sake of $9.75, just say, go on. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you're going to have to pay that all the time. So it depends on how busy the borders can be. In the second question here, oh, that should actually be a B. I don't know why I had an A there. Ben cross-border shops from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, buying $125 of goods. He was out of Canada for 14 hours. Now, this first one says if over 24 hours, this much is duty-free. If it's for less than 24 hours, then there's no free part. Okay, so oh, I forgot my Genie pays $9.75. So he would pay his HST on the whole $125. So the calculation would be, we would take the 125 times the 0.13, so $16.25, which still isn't a large amount. So he's going to pay $16.25 if they stop him and tell him to go into the customs terminal and pay. Again, that's not a large amount, so if it was busy, you might find the customs agent would just say, go on. Okay, it really depends. If this starts to be a larger amount, you're much more likely to have to go in and pay tax and any duty you might have to pay. So that's the end of the tutorial.